Hey guys, tonight we sail through dark waters and splintered decks, chasing an eerie question most historians never thought to ask. Why did 18th century pirates hate Wednesdays more than any other day of the week? The sea's calm tonight, but not your gut. You're perched at the edge of a rotting barrel, rain-soaked, half sure the hull beneath you is plotting your demise. The sails above creak like haunted doorways, and the crew? Oh, they're already muttering. Something about the day. Something about Wednesday. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is right now. I love seeing just how far and wide our sleepy little voyages reach. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're barefoot, ankle-deep in brine and bilge water, and already regretting the decision to sign up for pirate life. It's a Wednesday, of course it is, and you feel it in your bones. The day began with the quartermaster kicking over your hammock, yelling about a storm that hadn't yet arrived but always does. The dread is different today. It buzzes behind your eyes, like a wasp in your skull. By noon, your ship, the Gallows Whisper, is listing slightly to starboard, but nobody seems concerned. The hull leaks every day, but somehow it leaks more on Wednesdays. Or at least it feels that way. The carpenter's drunk, again, and the last time someone tried to fix the leak midweek, they vanished below deck and were never seen again. Seriously. The only thing they found was one soggy boot and a half-eaten biscuit with teeth marks no one could identify. You trudge toward the bow, and that's when the storm hits, out of nowhere, of course. The sky turns to bruised charcoal, the wind snaps the rigging taut, and you nearly lose your footing. It's the third Wednesday storm this month, and not a single one showed up in the ship's log. It's almost like the ocean knows what day it is and decides to throw a tantrum. Mainstream history agrees that pirates faced brutal weather without modern tools. But here's the weird bit: logs from several 18th century pirate vessels, Queen Anne's Revenge, Witta Galley, even merchant ships like the Mary Celeste, show a disproportionate number of squalls, rogue waves, and sudden hurricanes noted on Wednesdays. Historians still argue whether this is coincidence, selective recording, or some sailor's joke that spiraled out of control. But you're not laughing. You're hanging off the side of the ship, knuckles white, trying to reef a sail that's flapping like it wants to knock you into Neptune's arms. Lightning flashes, close, too close, and for a second, you swear you see a face in the cloud. A sharp-nosed, sneering thing with seaweed in its beard and eyes like barnacles. It's gone just as fast, but the feeling sticks to your skin like salt. By sundown, the sea has calmed, but the damage is done. A mast splintered. One sailor gone overboard. The galley fires out, and dinner? Well, let's just say the rats seem satisfied. The crew slouches together, soaked and silent, passing a near-empty bottle of rum. Nobody talks about the storm. They just mutter the same phrase: it's the day. It's always the day. You remember something old Jacobs said your first week aboard. He was missing an eye, 6 fingers, and 1 toe, and he smelled like wet rope and regret. He said, "Boy, you mark my words. Wednesdays'll get you cleaner than any cutlass." At the time, you laughed. Now, you clutch your knees and shiver. Down below deck, someone's humming. Off-key. You can't place the tune, but it's unsettling, like something your grandmother warned you not to sing in church. The hull groans with each wave, the wood swollen and tired. The rats have vanished. That's never a good sign. You find your hammock and crawl in, every muscle sore, every nerve buzzing. The ship rocks you like an uneasy cradle. You try not to think about the missing sailor, the face in the storm, the way the wind howled your name even though nobody else seemed to hear it. You try, but the thoughts creep in anyway. There's a knock. Just once. Sharp. Then nothing. And suddenly, you're wide awake again, because it's still Wednesday. You wake up to shouting. Again. Of course. Because it's Wednesday, and the sea doesn't believe in mercy. The shouting's not panicked, just annoyed, like someone discovered a chicken in the rum barrel or another crewmate misplaced a leg. The voices rise and fall, tangled with the thudding of boots on soaked timber. You swing out of your hammock, land with a squelch, and already regret waking up. Outside, the sky is weird. Not stormy, not calm, just unsettled. Yellowish. Sickly. The kind of sky that feels like it's holding something back. Something unpleasant. Like the clouds are waiting to drop a soggy anvil on your head. The crew's already working, their movements slower than usual, as if every muscle knows what day it is. You scan the horizon and spot it, no land. No ships. Just infinite, mocking water. Now here's the thing nobody tells you when you romanticize pirates. Yes, they had freedom, gold, parrots, and excellent hats. But they also had weather. Relentless, arbitrary weather. And on Wednesdays, it liked to play games. Historical fact time, 18th century sailors, including pirates, tracked wind patterns religiously. They kept logbooks full of cryptic shorthand in greasy ink, marking where the wind shifted, when it calmed, and when it punched a ship broadside like Poseidon had a grudge. What stands out? A disproportionate number of log entries report sudden wind changes, dead calms, or, worse, reverse winds specifically on Wednesdays. Reverse winds, you wonder, tying down a sail that's decided to act like a theater curtain. Yep. That's when the wind flips direction without warning, forcing the ship to adjust its heading or risk spinning in circles like a confused duck. Scholars still argue whether this was a recording bias, maybe sailors noticed oddities more on Wednesdays, or if there truly was a meteorological phenomenon messing with midweek navigation. Either way, you're experiencing it now. You notice the sails have slackened. The ship slows. Then, like someone flipped a switch, the wind howls from the opposite side. The boom swings violently, crack, and knocks a barrel clean into the sea. One sailor's hat follows, and he screams after it like it was his child. The rest of the crew groans. Nobody says it aloud, but they're all thinking the same thing, it's the cursed wind. Old Jacobs, gnawing on a pipe that's never lit, mutters, that's the Wednesday turn. Like clockwork. Never trust a sky with jaundice in its belly. You brace as the captain bellows orders, scrambling to reposition the sails. The air is damp and sharp, like it's been sneezed out of a ghost. The ropes fight your grip. They feel wetter than they should be, slippery in a way that suggests fish oil or spite. Someone loses control of a halyard and it snakes across the deck like a whip, slapping the gunwale with a loud snap. Then comes the lull. The wind dies entirely. You're adrift. Nothing moves. The ship moans softly, like it's trying not to be noticed. Even the waves have stopped breaking, just long, oily rolls under the hull. You realize you're holding your breath. The sky presses in. You've heard the stories. The dead calm was feared as much as storms. Some sailors thought the ocean was breathing in, waiting to cough you into the abyss. Others believed these lulls meant something was approaching, something large, slow, and deeply unwelcome. Quirky tidbit here, there was a superstition among Caribbean pirates that if the wind reversed on a Wednesday and was followed by calm, it meant a sea witch was aboard. Not necessarily visible. Not necessarily malicious. Just, there. Watching. Testing the crew. If someone was thrown overboard during that calm, and the wind returned after, well, that was the witch's price. Guess who the crew starts looking at? It's not overt. But you catch the sideways glances. You're new. You're dry-eyed. You didn't lose a hat. The cook eyes you like you're about to turn his stew sour. Even Jacobs won't meet your gaze. You laugh it off, too loudly. Maybe the wind's just taking a nap, you say. Silence. You swear the ship tips slightly in judgment. The first mate walks by, his boots squelching. Get below. Sharp eyes make sharp tongues. That's pirate code for, they're getting superstitious, and I don't want to mop up your blood. You head below deck and the air is thick. Stagnant. Everything smells like old wood, wet canvas, and fear. The candles barely flicker, as if the flame knows better than to draw attention. You sit near the powder room, listening to the eerie groan of timbers, trying not to think about sea witches or reverse winds or the quiet too loud to ignore. Above you, you hear one voice, just one, begin humming that same off-key tune from last night. Then silence. Then, the wind returns. Not gently. It slams into the sails like a slap, jerking the whole ship to one side. Barrels roll. The deck screams. You lurch forward, slam your head on a beam, and when you stumble up top again, the crew looks different. Like they've all seen the same thing and agreed silently never to speak of it. No one looks at you now. But they don't look away either. The wind keeps blowing. Forward this time. But every flap of the sail sounds like laughter. You wipe your face with a salt-crusted sleeve and whisper, "It's just a windy day. Just weather." But the sea doesn't care what you whisper. Especially not on a Wednesday. The crew's quiet the next morning. Not the calm kind of quiet, more like the kind of silence that settles over a room right after someone mentions the plague. It's Wednesday again, of course. Feels like it never stopped being Wednesday. You could swear the sun rises slower today, dragging its reluctant light across a deck still slick with yesterday's regret. You yawn, stretch, and immediately regret both as the bosun's whistle shrieks like a dying parrot. Everyone tenses. It's not just a wake-up call. On Wednesdays, that whistle means something different. Punishment Day. You knew this was a thing, heard it whispered in hammocks and spat between cracked teeth. Wednesday is the day discipline gets handed out. Not because it's the middle of the week, not because it's convenient, but because of something darker. The crew says it's tradition. But you know better, it's a superstition disguised as routine. Up, dogs, the quartermaster roars. All hands to deck. Time to settle debts. One of the newer crewmates, a nervous lad from Liverpool with freckles and shaky knees, looks like he might faint. You remember his mistake, a poor knot on the jibline that nearly cost the ship its bowsprit. Normally, someone would just shout at him and make him redo it. But not today. The first punishment is announced, 6 lashes. The lad's shirt is ripped down the back, his skin already trembling before the rope even strikes. The bosun doesn't smile. He doesn't need to. Everyone knows how this works. And it's not about the crime. It's about the day. You wince with every crack of the cat-o'-nine-tails. The sound is awful, wet, rhythmic, almost ceremonial. The rest of the crew doesn't cheer, doesn't jeer. They just watch, grim-faced, like they're waiting for it to be over but expecting something worse. Mainstream records confirm that 18th-century pirate crews did use corporal punishment, though not always as brutally as the Royal Navy. Pirate codes, even Blackbeard's, often included penalties like lashes or marooning, but many crews actually voted on punishments democratically. So why the Wednesday fixation? Historians still argue whether this midweek practice came from borrowed naval discipline routines, religious associations with penance, or, more likely, simple fear. You see, something always seemed to go wrong on Wednesdays. Ships got lost. Men fell sick. Fights broke out over dice games. The running theory was, punish the bad early, so the rest of the day doesn't claim you too. Second up is old Mick. Nobody knows what he did, probably nothing. But he's old, and his voice carries too far when he talks in his sleep. They say he curses in Gaelic, and someone swears they heard him say the captain's true name backwards. Today, that's enough for a keelhaul. Now, keelhauling isn't just a scary word. It's a nightmare in action. They tie you up, toss you over one side of the ship, drag you under the hull, and pull you up the other. Fast enough and you drown. Slow enough and the barnacles shred your back like coral cheese graters. The rope tightens. Mick doesn't scream, just glares with the kind of resignation that only comes from decades at sea. Down he goes. The sea hisses. A long pause. Then up he comes, coughing, gasping, back shredded and eyes vacant. They lay him out by the mizzenmast and let the sun bake him dry. No one says a word. You swallow hard. That image is going to stick with you, probably longer than it should. Maybe forever. Here's the quirky part, some pirates believed Wednesday punishments actually cleansed the ship of spiritual baggage. Like a saltwater exorcism. One sailor told you, you bleed 1, you save 10. You're not sure if that math adds up, but pirates weren't big on calculators. There's a lull in activity. The crew's not working. They're watching each other, gauging expressions, measuring silence. That's when you see it, the list. The captain's private log. Rumor has it he writes names in it every Tuesday night. By Wednesday morning, someone always bleeds. And guess what? Your name's there. You saw it. Scrawled in ink that smelled suspiciously like rum and regret. You didn't do anything. Not that you can think of. Maybe you stepped somewhere sacred. Maybe you sang that tune last night without realizing it. Maybe the parrot just doesn't like your face. Yeah, the parrot. Captain Rourke's parrot, Mr. Pips, has been squawking weird things lately. Mostly on Wednesdays. Last week it yelled, "Dead men get dessert." Nobody knew what it meant until the cook found a tooth in the pudding. You meet the parrot's beady little eyes. It tilts its head, gives a rattle, then shouts, "He knows. He knows." Now everyone's looking at you. The first mate frowns. You been talkin' to the bird? No, you say too quickly. He steps forward. Then why's he callin' you out? You shrug, sweating. I dunno. Maybe he's got me confused with someone else. Parrot don't lie, someone mutters. Probably Jacobs. Maybe the parrot himself. You're spared, for now. The captain calls off the punishments for the day, muttering something about tides and headaches. But you can feel it in the way the crew avoids you afterward. You're next. Maybe not this Wednesday. But a Wednesday. Because on this ship, pain has a schedule. And it always shows up right on time. You're chewing something that probably used to be bread. Probably. It's hard to say for sure, because it tastes like a combination of seawater, sawdust, and ancient betrayal. The crew calls it ship biscuit, but you're starting to think that's just code for chewable fossil. Wednesday lunch. The worst of the week. It's not just bad luck that makes the midweek meal so foul, it's intentional. The cook, a toothless brute named Groggly, swears the stores always go sour faster on Wednesdays. Whether that's due to heat, humidity, or spiteful pantry spirits, no one can say. What's certain is that every Wednesday, the food gets suspicious. Today's menu, wormy hardtack, salted pork with a greenish sheen, and something in a bowl that might be stew, or might be yesterday's mop water reheated with a hint of onion. You poke it with a spoon. It hisses. You decide to eat the hardtack instead. Don't bite down too hard, warns Jacobs, not looking up. Lost me third molar on a biscuit last March. Still waitin' for it to pass. You glance around. No one complains. They chew mechanically, like punishment is one bad remark away. Someone near the bow gags quietly, then tries to pass it off as a cough. No one acknowledges it. Mainstream fact, 18th century seafaring diets were horrific. Pirates might have stolen better food than Navy men, but that didn't mean it lasted. Salted meat, dry biscuits, dried peas, everything came with bonus maggots by week's end. Vitamin C deficiency led to scurvy, a lovely condition that made your gums bleed and your teeth fall out like wet dominoes. The fringe fact? Some pirate crews believed food spoiled faster midweek due to the ship's position under certain sky lines. They thought Wednesdays aligned with dead stars, and that spoiled rations were a warning from those who'd died at sea. It's absurd, sure, but when you're eating meat that smells like a haunted boot, you start to wonder. You're halfway through the salt pork when you hear the whimper. One of the younger deckhands, no older than 16, holds up his biscuit. Embedded in it, a small, unblinking eye. Fish or rat? Unclear. The crew stares in fascinated horror. Groggily waddles over. What's the trouble, then? Is this normal? The boy stammers. Groggily leans in, sniffs the biscuit, then shrugs. It's Wednesday. And that settles it. The boy nods, as if that explains everything. He puts the biscuit down and doesn't eat the rest of the day. You try to keep going. You need the calories, after all. But it's difficult to eat when the food actively resists digestion. The pork is so salty your tongue feels like it's shrinking, and the hardtack might technically be harder than the ship's hull. Then there's the stew. You finally work up the courage to dip a spoon in, and what comes up is stringy. A strange shade of gray. Smells vaguely like brine and burnt leather. You ask someone, "What is this?" "Wednesday stew," comes the deadpan reply. "Yes, but what's in it?" The crewmate shrugs. "Things." Jacobs, ever helpful, leans in and whispers, "Once found a finger in it. Just a bit of one. Might have been pork. But it wore a ring." You blink. What happened to the ring? Oh, Groggily still wears it. Calls it his lucky charm. You glance over at Groggily. Sure enough, a battered gold ring sits on his pinky, crusted with grime. You wonder how many unlucky charms it took to make him this cheerful. There's a brief moment of quiet. Then, without warning, a loud thud from the cargo hold. Everyone jumps. The parrot screeches, "It moved." It moved. Someone bolts for the hatch. Turns out one of the barrels of pork split open. Not unusual, except this one is wriggling. Not from rats. From maggots. So many they're spilling out in waves, squirming across the wood like a tide of revulsion. You gag a little. Groggily just sighs. "Wednesday maggots," he mutters. "They always hatch fast." Historians still argue whether ships really saw accelerated spoilage midweek, or if it was simply the cumulative effect of a bad supply chain, poor storage, and paranoia. Some sailors even claimed time itself worked differently at sea, like Wednesdays stretched longer, making food decay faster. One logbook from the Revenant Rose simply says, "Wednesday again." Pork screamed when cut. You push your bowl away. The stew bubbles. Once. Jacobs leans in again. You know the worst part? You shake your head, not sure you want the answer. This is the good stuff. By Friday, it's all weevils and rumors. You decide maybe hunger is preferable. You nibble the edge of the hardtack, only to feel something sharp. You spit out what looks like a tiny bone. Fish? Bird? Groggily? No one seems surprised. You sigh and toss the biscuit overboard. Something immediately snatches it from below. You don't lean too far over the rail. The afternoon drags on with the slow horror of indigestion. Your stomach rumbles ominously. Groggily offers seconds. You decline with a weak smile. The parrot screeches again. It's alive. Wednesday's alive. No one responds. You wonder if anyone can. You go to bed that night with a growling belly, a queasy stomach, and a strong suspicion that if you do throw up, it might file a complaint about what you fed it. Somewhere near the galley, you swear you hear something laugh. You're woken in the night by singing. Not the drunken, rowdy kind, the crew saves that for Saturdays, when the rum flows and the regrets get blurry. No, this is different. High, lilting voices carried on the wind. Melancholy. Haunting. Beautiful, even, if you weren't so completely terrified. You lie still in your hammock, afraid that even blinking too loudly might attract attention. The song doesn't sound human. It rises and falls with the waves, perfectly in sync. It's as if the ocean itself is singing. But worse than that, you feel something inside you responding to it. Something that wants to get up. Walk. Leap. You sit bolt upright and realize, you're not the only one who heard it. A deckhand named Russell is already halfway up the steps to the main deck, his eyes glazed like fogged glass. He walks like he's been called. You scramble out of your hammock and follow, heart hammering. You don't know what compels you, maybe curiosity, maybe a survival instinct that wants to confirm something unnatural is happening. Spoiler, it is. You reach the deck just in time to see Russell standing at the rail, arms wide, face tilted to the stars. The song gets louder. Clearer. Words you don't understand. He smiles, blissfully. Then he jumps. Russell, you yell, sprinting to the side. Splash. Gone. You stare into the black sea, but there's nothing to see. No ripple. No scream. Just a faint echo of that eerie song, which fades the moment his body hits the water. You're shaking. You're not alone. Around the deck, several crewmates have gathered. No one speaking. No one stopping anyone else. You realize this has happened before. On Wednesdays. Jacobs appears beside you like a ghost. Sirens. Never sing on Mondays. Never show Thursdays. But Wednesdays? Oh, they feast. Now, mainstream history confirms that sirens were a staple of maritime legend, especially among sailors from the Mediterranean and later Caribbean routes. But reports from the golden age of piracy show something interesting, an unusual number of man-overboard incidents on Wednesdays, often at night, with no storm or battle to blame. Some even mentioned strange music, though those entries were usually crossed out or followed by ominous stains. Scholars still argue whether these were real events, mass hallucinations, or simply convenient explanations for mutiny and desertion. But to you, the music felt too vivid to be madness. It called something inside you. A chord you didn't know you had. By morning, the crew's quiet again. No one mentions Russell. His hammock is already rolled up, his belongings distributed. His name is scraped from the board by the captain himself, with a sigh like a cracked bottle. The wind is still. The sky pale. The siren song is gone. But the feeling isn't. At breakfast, Jacobs shares a story, unprompted, eyes distant. Saw one once. Long time ago. She weren't no fish. Not like the tales say. No tail, no seashell bra. Just a woman. Eyes like kelp and teeth too straight to be natural. She smiled at me. Just once. Lost 3 shipmates that day. You ask if he's sure it was a siren. Could have been a ghost, he shrugs. Or a witch. Or Wednesday herself. You blink. What? He just nods toward the horizon. Every Wednesday, the sea asks for something. If you're lucky, it takes a biscuit. If not, it takes a man. Later, as you're scrubbing the deck and trying not to think about Russell's face, the parrot squawks, pretty song, pretty drowned. You stop scrubbing. The rest of the day passes in a strange hush. The ship moves, but no one sings. No one whistles. A few superstitious crewmates stuff cotton into their ears, as if that will help when the sea decides it wants you. That night, you can't sleep. You lie in your hammock, hands clenched, body stiff. And just as your eyes begin to droop, you hear it again, faint, further out. A single note. You press your hands to your ears. You hum your own off-key tune just to drown it out. Eventually, it fades. But you don't sleep. You just wait. Because every Wednesday, something sings. And sometimes, someone answers. You're on deck before dawn. Eyes gritty. Muscles sore. Heart quietly dreading whatever fresh horror Wednesday has in store. You've lost track of how many it's been, 3, maybe 4 weeks since you first noticed the pattern. Since you realized this day wasn't just unlucky, it was targeted. The crew's subdued. No one speaks above a whisper. A gull squawks overhead and half the deck flinches. Breakfast is dry biscuits and cold coffee. No one asks what happened to the hot kind. You're coiling rope when it happens. Crack. The sound echoes through the hull like a thunderclap. Every head jerks up. It came from below. Cargo hold. You see the captain's expression tighten into that clenched jaw thing he does when he's pretending not to be afraid. Then a shout, ambush. By the time you get below, it's already chaos. 2 men bleeding. 1 barrel overturned. And a stranger, wide-eyed, wild-haired, and absolutely not supposed to be here, is crouched in the shadows, clutching a stolen blade. No one knows how he got aboard. That's the first problem. The second? It's Wednesday. And of course today is the day a stowaway picks to jump out of a pork barrel. You draw your cutlass because everyone else does. The captain levels a pistol. Speak, dog, he growls. Who sent ye? The stranger doesn't answer. He bolts. Through the barrels, over crates, dodging hands and hooks, until Jacobs, bless his bony knees, clotheslines him with a mop handle. The man hits the floor, groaning. Groggily stomps over, knife out, eyes gleaming. Want I should open him up? The captain holds a hand. No. Not yet. They tie the stranger up and drag him above deck. The sun's rising now, but nobody's enjoying it. The crew forms a circle around the stowaway. He's young, maybe 20. Dirty, scared, breathing hard. He starts babbling. Didn't mean to, I just needed out. They were coming. You don't know what it's like, he kills on Wednesdays. I thought I'd be safe at sea. That gets a collective twitch from the crew. You lean in. Who, you ask quietly. The stowaway's eyes dart to yours. Captain Maynard. Ah. That name. Mainstream fact, Captain Robert Maynard was a Royal Navy officer famous for defeating Blackbeard in 1718. Smart, ruthless, and a nightmare for pirates, especially along the Carolina coast. But here's the whisper no history book includes, Maynard was said to plan his raids for Wednesdays. Not because of tides or timing. Because he liked it. Maynard's men came every Wednesday, the stowaway mutters. Always knew where we were. Like he had a map of our sins. He'd hang the first man and make the second dig the grave. Then he'd ask the third what he'd learned. And shoot him anyway. You swallow hard. It's not just legend. Pirate logs recovered from shipwrecks mention sudden ambushes midweek. One sloop wrote, "Death comes regular, like Wednesday supper." Another, 3 bells past noon. Sails on the horizon. We ran. We failed. Of course, it's Wednesday. Historians still argue whether Maynard really struck only on Wednesdays, or if it's sailor myth, condensed over time like old rum. But you've read the logs. Too many a line. It wasn't just bad luck. It was deliberate. You ask the stowaway, how'd you escape? He shakes his head. Didn't. Just ran. Hid in a barrel on the Jade Widow. Got transferred with cargo. Thought I was lucky. The crew murmurs. The Jade Widow sank last week. On a Wednesday. The captain steps forward. If Maynard's hunting us, we need to move. Full speed. But we're low on supplies, the first mate says. And the wind's been wrong 3 days, someone adds. The captain just grunts. Then we make our own wind. You glance at the stranger, still tied up. His eyes are wild. He mutters to himself now, some kind of chant. A prayer or a curse, you can't tell. Groggly narrows his eyes. He's bad luck. Everything's bad luck on Wednesday, you mutter. Jacobs nods grimly. He's right. Bad things don't come alone. And right on cue, boom. The lookouts cry, sails. Starboard. Everyone races to the rail. Far on the horizon, black sails. Not the usual kind. These are sharp, angular, moving too fast for the wind. No flag. No sign. Just motion. You don't know whose ship that is. But your gut does. The crew springs into action, unfurling sails, loading cannons, shouting across the deck. The stowaway laughs, high and strange. Told you. He follows. You look back at the black sails. You swear, for just a second, you see a glint of gold through the spyglass, like a medal. Or a bullet casing. The ship turns toward you. You whisper, it's him. Jacobs just says, of course it is. It's Wednesday. The sea tries to warn you, but nobody listens. The waves swell without wind, the gulls vanish, and the sky turns a dull, bruised green, like the ocean's holding its breath. You're still staring at the black sails when the captain barks orders. Cut the anchor. Turn us windward. The crew scurries. Knives flash. Ropes scream as they're yanked tight. The stowaway just laughs to himself, tied up and forgotten near the mainmast. His face says, I already told you this was coming. You're heaving on a rope when Jacobs mutters, he'll be wanting blood by sundown. You ask who? Whoever's aboard that black-flagged hellship, he says. Could be Maynard. Could be worse. The real problem, though, the Wednesday problem, isn't just what's chasing you. It's who's on your own ship. Loot tensions. See, pirates aren't great with money. Or, more specifically, they're too great with it. They love it. Adore it. Kill over it. And there's something about Wednesday that turns this quiet greed into open hostility. Today, it starts with a coin. A single Spanish piece of 8, lying in the scuppers near the aft hatch. No one knows how it got there. Maybe someone dropped it. Maybe the ship coughed it up. Either way, 2 crewmen spot it at once. They don't argue. They just lunge. Fists fly. Someone bites. Another grabs a belaying pin. You duck as it whistles past your head. The fight spreads faster than scurvy in a lemon-free fleet. Within seconds, the whole deck's a melee of curses, fists, and accusations. There's my share from the Nassau hull. You took my rum last week. You've been hiding gold in your boot, I know it. The stowaway is cackling now, wriggling on the deck like he's watching a puppet show. It's the gold. Always the gold on Wednesdays. She makes them fight. You don't have time to ask who she is. Because now someone's drawn steel. It's the first mate. He's pointing it at a wiry sailor named Brinks who's clutching a canvas sack suspiciously bulgy for its size. You thieving rat, the mate growls. You said you lost your share at cards. Brinks sneers. I did. The blade presses closer. Then what's in the sack? And that's when the sack meows. Everyone freezes. Brinks blinks. It's a cat? Sure enough, a tiny striped kitten pokes its head out, terrified and clearly not gold. There's a pause. Then the first mate shouts, "He stole a cat." And just like that, the brawl restarts. This time, over who the cat belongs to. You know what this is. You feel it in your bones. Wednesday has brought another round of treasure paranoia. Mainstream fact: pirate codes often had strict rules about loot division. Crews voted on shares, with extra for captains, surgeons, or the guy who lit the cannon first. Still, accusations of hoarding or skimming were common, especially when the treasure was uncounted. And now for the quirky bit: some pirate ships believed gold was cursed if counted on a Wednesday. They'd wait until Thursday to tally it, assuming it hadn't caused a fistfight or a fire by then. Historians still argue whether this was genuine superstition or just post-battle stress catching up with exhausted men. But there's one fact no one disputes: more pirate mutinies began midweek than any other day. Something about Wednesdays brought out the worst in everyone. You try to break up the fight, but your arm gets caught by someone screaming about silver teeth and lying charts. You sidestep a mug of grog hurled like a cannonball. It shatters against the mainmast, splashing the parrot, who shrieks, "Buried me! Buried me! Lovely!" By the time the captain fires his pistol into the air, twice, the deck's a mess of bruises, broken planks, and egos. No one's dead. Yet. But you can see the lines being drawn. Old grudges are bubbling. And that one little coin still sits in the scuppers, untouched, like bait. The captain snarls, next man to touch loot on a Wednesday gets tossed to the deep. You'd think that would calm everyone. It doesn't. Down below, you hear whispering. Mutinous whispering. You can't make out words, just tone. Sharp. Resentful. Dangerous. It has the rhythm of men who think they should be captain. Or maybe no one should. You find Jacobs again, nursing a black eye. This happens often. Every week, he sighs. It's the curse of counting. Treasure glows hotter on Wednesdays. You scoff. You mean people get greedy. Same thing, really. That night, the stowaway finally stops laughing. He stares at you instead. You see it now, don't you? He whispers. This ship's ready to split. Not from cannon fire. From inside. You nod slowly. Because you do see it. Wednesdays break ships. Not just with storms. But with secrets. The ship groans through the night like it's warning you. Or maybe just sighing in despair. Either way, you're not sleeping. Not when half the crew's nursing bruises, the other half sighing the captain like a roast pig, and somewhere below deck, a stowaway keeps mumbling to himself about the teeth in the water. You roll out of your hammock at first light, if you can even call it that. The sun's not up so much as it's peeking through a smear of fog with the enthusiasm of a cat avoiding a bath. It's Wednesday, again. Your teeth hurt, your stomach's turning flips, and worst of all, you're on the schedule. The surgeon's schedule. Your shoulder's been aching since that rope snapped 3 days ago and whipped you like an unpaid bar tab. You meant to get it looked at Monday. You waited. Then Tuesday. Then you remembered the surgeon only sees walk-ins on Wednesdays. Of course he does. You shuffle toward the makeshift sickbay, little more than a table, a stool, and some tools that look like they were last cleaned with seawater and a blessing. The smell hits you first, sour rum, old sweat, and something unmistakably medical in the worst way, like old bandages steeped in regret. "Ah, our Wednesday special," says the surgeon, who everyone just calls Doc, despite the fact he once admitted to having trained in barbering, not medicine. He's got spectacles with one cracked lens and hands that tremble slightly, not from fear, just age and excessive enthusiasm. Up on the table, he says, gesturing to the blood-stained slab that groans under your weight. You eye the tools. What's that one for? Doc beams. Oh, that's the bone needle. I've only had to use it twice. Successful? Well, he says, reaching for a bottle, depends on how you define alive. Mainstream fact, 18th century shipboard medicine was mostly guesswork and grit. Surgeons weren't often formally trained. They learned by doing, or more accurately, by trying. Amputations were common. Infection even more so. Anesthesia? Nope. Just rum and a few deckhands to hold you down. Doc examines your shoulder, pokes a little too hard, and hums. Dislocation. Maybe some tendon tearing. You nod. So, you'll pop it back in? Oh, absolutely. But it's Wednesday, so you'll want to bite this. He offers you a leather strap that might once have been part of someone's belt. Maybe someone's still alive. You hesitate. Why does Wednesday matter? He shrugs. Things go worse on Wednesdays. Always have. I once stitched a man's arm back on, fine work, tight thread. Come Wednesday, it fell clean off. Because the ship wanted it to, he says, dead serious. Or maybe the sea. Hard to say. Just bite. You do. Because at this point, why not? The procedure is as bad as you expect. Maybe worse. There's a pop, a scream, yours, and the brief sensation that you've left your body entirely to go have a quiet panic attack in the corner. When you return, you're wrapped in stained gauze and Doc's pouring a splash of rum on your head like a priest at a sloppy baptism. Good as new, he says cheerfully. Give it a day. Or 3. And stay out of fights, eh? You nod, dazed, and shuffle off. But you're not the only one visiting Doc today. By midday, the sickbay is full. Sprains. Bites. A mysterious rash shaped like a jellyfish. One guy who sneezed himself into a hernia. And every single one of them got hurt this morning. Jacobs appears beside you, chewing on something that might be tobacco or a strip of sailcloth. You know, he says, Wednesdays when the injuries spike. You glance at the line of moaning, bandaged crewmen. Clearly. No, I mean statistically. He taps his head. I've been keepin' count. More falls, more breaks, more stab wounds. The sea hates midweek. Here's the quirky bit, some pirate crews believed Wednesdays were cursed for surgery. A common phrase was, Wednesday's wound won't heal. Ships would reschedule amputations to avoid the day, if they had time. But some didn't. And according to Jacobs, ships that did perform surgery on Wednesdays saw more deaths from infection than any other day. Historians still argue whether this is just coincidental, given the average lifespan of a deckhand was, until you slipped, but the records do show a weird cluster of medical failures midweek. You think of poor Paddy, who went in for a splinter last Wednesday and came out with fewer fingers than he started with. You remember his scream echoing down the hull. The day limps forward. You limp with it. By dinner, the stew has turned purple for reasons no one wants to investigate. The parrot refuses to eat, squawks, chop chop Dr. Drop, and then pecks a spoon off the table. Later, as you settle into your hammock, trying to keep pressure off your shoulder, you overhear Doc muttering to himself in the dark. Something about blood, thread, and the mouth under the keel. You pretend you didn't hear. Because on Wednesdays, even the surgeon isn't quite himself. You wake up to feathers. Not falling gently or wafting in some poetic, dreamlike way, no, they're everywhere. Stuck in the rigging, tangled in the ropes, plastered to the deck with salt spray and something suspiciously red. And the parrot? Gone. Mr. Pips, Captain Rourke's foul-mouthed, almond-colored, one-footed parrot, is missing. The ship is in uproar. Not because they loved him, he once bit the cook and the cannon master in the same morning, but because everyone knows what this means. It's Wednesday. You find the captain pacing, boots clomping like funeral drums. His jaws locked, his eyes are darker than yesterday's storm, and his hat's on backwards, never a good sign. He never leaves, the captain growls. Not unless he knows. Knows what, nobody says. But everyone's thinking the same thing, omens. Now, pirates were a superstitious lot, crossing knives on a table was bad luck, women on board were worse, and if a black cat crossed your path, you were expected to dive into the sea and swim backward 3 times just to reverse it. But parrots? Parrots were different. Mainstream fact, parrots were popular among pirates not just because they looked cool, but because they were valuable in trade. Bright plumage, mimicry, and their sheer rarity in Europe made them prized pets and black market currency. But here's the weird twist, some pirate circles believed parrots could see what humans couldn't. Ghosts. Curses. Ship spirits. One old sailor's journal even describes a parrot that refused to enter the captain's quarters after a storm, screeching foul warnings to a shadow none could see. It died the next day. The ship sank the next week. Historians still argue whether these beliefs were just sailors' ramblings or symbolic storytelling, but on this ship, no one's laughing. Especially not when Pips was known to squawk only on Wednesdays. Never Mondays. Not Fridays. Just 1 day a week, and always something bone-chilling like, turn back, or, too late, too late. Jacobs shuffles past you with a net. If we don't find him, someone's gettin' buried. You blink. We're not that attached to a bird. It ain't about the bird, he says, not looking back. It's about what he saw. An hour later, someone finds a single claw, scorched black at the tip, wedged in the crack between 2 planks. No body. No feathers. No noise. The cook promptly throws out all the eggs. I ain't servin' no feathered ghost breakfast, he mutters. The captain calls for silence. We search the hold. Top to bottom. The crew obeys, nervously checking barrels, bunks, sails. You volunteer for the bow hold, the darkest, dampest corner of the ship. Because, of course, why not? Your shoulder still aches, your stomach's on protest, and you'd really love not to find a possessed parrot today. The bow hold is cold. Oddly cold. The air smells like mildew and pepper. You step carefully, lantern in hand, and freeze. There's something scratched into the hull. Fresh. Deep gouges. Not with a knife. With claws. You run your fingers along the groove. It spells. 1 Wednesday left. You don't mention it. Instead, you return topside and lie, badly, nothing there. But Jacob stares at you, frowning. You saw it. I can tell. You shake your head. Just dust and damp. He leans closer. Parrot rode in the hull last time, too. Scratched, the tide lies. Then we hit coral. You think it's the bird? No, he whispers. I think it's what used the bird. That night, the wind picks up. It whistles through the rigging like it's trying to speak. Several crewmen swear they hear the word Wednesday repeated in the gusts. Later, near the witching hour, the youngest deckhand starts shrieking. Says he saw a flash of green feathers fly across the moon, followed by a pair of glowing yellow eyes in the crow's nest. They check the nest. It's empty. Except for a single, perfectly intact parrot feather, laid gently on the spyglass. It's wet. You're below deck, wide awake, when you hear it. The soft, grating squawk of Mr. Pips. Not from above. From beneath the floorboards. You do not check. The captain announces in the morning that the parrot is dead. No one argues. But nobody believes it either. Superstition becomes law. No whistling today. No mirrors uncovered. No knives on the table. You're told to toss a pinch of salt over your shoulder before tying any knots. And every single crew member avoids stepping on the spot where the feather was found. You ask Jacobs, what if it comes back? He just shrugs. Depends who's calling. You want to ask more, but the bell rings. It's almost midnight again. And the next Wednesday is already creeping over the horizon. The rum's gone. That's the first thing you notice when you wake. Not the damp wool sticking to your neck, not the low moan of strained timbers, not even the fact that someone seems to have carved "run" into your hammock with a fork. It's the silence. The wrong kind of silence. No laughter. No clinking mugs. No slurred sea shanties. No rum. You push yourself upright, joints cracking like old floorboards, and limp toward the galley. Jacobs is already there, staring into the empty barrel like it personally betrayed him. Tell me it's just dry on top, you mumble. He doesn't look away. Bone dry. Not a drop. And the spigot's twisted backwards. You squint. Like someone turned it? No, he says grimly. Like something pulled from inside. Cue the full-body chill. You already know what day it is. No need to check the calendar, just sniff the air, feel the ship's mood, and note how the sails flap like annoyed ghosts. Wednesday. And the rum's gone. Now, to clarify, pirates without rum are like angry toddlers without naps. Cranky. Confused. Destructive. And you're on a ship full of them. Mainstream fact, rum was central to pirate life. It wasn't just booze, it was currency, comfort, even medicine in a pinch. The infamous rum ration became formalized later in the Royal Navy, but pirates took their allotment very seriously. Deny it, and morale dropped faster than a cannonball in a sack of pudding. But here's the weird part. Quirky sailor legend claimed that rum barrels could go bad if tapped on a Wednesday. Not spoiled, stolen. Some said sea spirits drank it in protest of spilled blood. Others blamed the Wednesday thief, an invisible creature that siphoned barrels dry if it wasn't appeased with a coin or a song. Historians still argue whether these tales were invented excuses for overdrinking or smuggling, but the records don't lie. More reports of vanishing rum show up on Wednesdays than any other day. You hear shouting above deck. Where's my grog? He drank mine. No, I didn't, you soggy walrus. You climb up just in time to see a mug fly past your ear. It smashes against the mast and a full-on brawl erupts, less angry and more panicked. Like they're scared the rum might be permanently gone. The cook's weeping. The quartermaster's pacing like a dog about to chew the rigging. And the captain? He's polishing his pistol. That's never good. You make it to the barrel yourself and check. No leaks. No cracks. Just one little thing inside, a soaked cork, carved with a tiny mark. A sideways W. Jacobs leans in. That weren't there yesterday. You nod slowly. Someone's messing with us. Or something. You remember what the stowaway said last week, about, he kills on Wednesdays. You start to wonder, what if he wasn't talking about Maynard? What if he meant the day itself? By midday, the crew's restless. Work slows. No singing. No joking. One sailor tries chewing coffee beans just to keep his hands busy. Another drinks lamp oil. The ship lurches slightly, like even it is nervous. Then someone disappears. Tiny Tom, deck swabber, part-time lookout, and full-time nuisance, is just gone. Last seen cleaning the forecastle. Vanished. No splash. No sign. All that's left is his tin cup, still warm. And the faint smell of rum. Except, the rum's gone. You start to piece it together. The pattern. The punishments. The siren. The claw marks. Now this. It's like every Wednesday, the ship takes something. Demands something. The parrot. The stowaway's sanity. Tiny Tom. And now, your rum. You speak with the captain. We need to do something, you say. He glares. Like what? Offer it something. A trade. Trade with who? He snaps. The wind? The day? The parrot's ghost? Jacob speaks up. We used to pour the first mug overboard. Every Wednesday. A gift to the deep. Did it on my last ship. Lost a man once when we skipped it. The captain pauses. We stopped doing that after Cartagena. You remember Cartagena. You remember the explosion. The fire. The 3-day storm. The Wednesday when the cook's beard caught fire and no one could explain why. Let's do it, you say. They fill a mug with the last drop of cooking wine. Jacobs adds a coin. The captain stirs it with a splinter from the broken rum barrel. You all gather by the rail. The wind still. The sea is black and waiting. The captain raises the mug. To Wednesday. May it take what it's owed and nothing more. He pours. The splash is soft. Quiet. And the ship sighs. Literally. You all feel it, planks creaking in relief, ropes going slack, like the gallows whisper herself just exhaled. Below, someone finds another barrel. Hidden behind crates. Untapped. Full. Not rum. Brandy. Still good. The crew cheers. The captain just nods. Next Wednesday, we pour double. That night, you lie in your hammock, swaying gently. No songs. No brawls. Just a quiet clink as someone places a mug on the deck above your head. A peace offering. For the day that always wants more. You wake to cannon fire. Not the thunderous, chaos-drenched kind of a full-blown naval assault, but a single blast. One warning shot. Sharp. Deliberate. Loud enough to make your ribs vibrate. You scramble topside, still yanking on your boots, and nearly collide with Jacobs, who mutters, "It's Wednesday. Of course someone's shooting at us." The crew's already in position. Cannons loaded. Eyes narrowed toward the horizon. And there it is, a merchant vessel. Trim, pale sails, striped flag. Clearly slow. Clearly unarmed. Clearly doomed. You recognize the glint in Captain Rourke's eyes. He's in what the crew calls his Wednesday mood, a dark, tight-lipped intensity that usually ends in blood and broken masts. "We board," he growls. "She's loaded. I can smell it." And just like that, you're racing toward the merchantman, ropes at the ready, cutlass drawn. Mainstream history confirms pirates attacked merchant ships regularly, but here's the weird pattern: a surprising number of these attacks logged in pirate and naval records took place on Wednesdays. Coincidence? Maybe. But even British trade routes began adding extra lookouts midweek by the 1720s, just in case. Historians still argue whether pirates attacked more on Wednesdays by strategic choice, catching crews off guard midweek, or if sailors simply remembered Wednesday raids more clearly because they were so cursed. Back on deck, your ship closes in. The merchant crew is panicked. A few wave flags, desperate to parley. The rest just scramble around like ants on a wet biscuit. You jump aboard as soon as the grappling ropes bite. The air smells like ink and spice. Someone yells about a lockbox. Another about a shipment of tobacco. You duck as a crate flies overhead and shatters on the railing, spraying dried herbs everywhere. The fight is short. Barely a skirmish. The merchant crew surrenders faster than Jacobs can spit. Victory, it seems. But the captain isn't smiling. Neither is anyone else. Because as you take the cargo, something odd happens. One of the barrels, big, iron-banded, marked with red paint, shakes. Just once. Just a little. Like something inside is alive. You glance at Jacobs. He's pale. Don't open it. The captain hears that. What? Jacobs raises a hand. We opened a barrel like that last year. Wednesday, too. Found bones inside. No meat. Just bones, all clean, all cracked. The captain laughs, but it's hollow. Probably smuggling. Maybe, Jacobs says. But one of those bones had teeth. There's a pause. You all stare at the barrel. Leave it, the captain decides. We take the rest. You return to the gallows whisper with crates of sugar, sacks of coin, and half a dozen terrified merchantmen tied up for ransom. It should be a win. But it doesn't feel like one. Not today. Because as soon as you pull away, the sea changes. The wind dies. The air thickens. And that's when someone notices, the barrel's on board. You swear you left it behind. But there it is. Sitting by the mizzenmast. Unopened. Unmoved. Just, present. No one admits to bringing it. No one wants to go near it. The parrot's still gone, but if he were here, he'd probably be screaming. The crew gathers, unsure. The captain orders it tossed overboard. 4 men try. Only 2 return above deck without injury. The other 2 are different now. One's eyes are bloodshot, and he won't stop muttering in Portuguese, he's not Portuguese. The other just sits, clutching his head, whispering, it's in the wood, it's in the wood, it's in the wood. You don't sleep that night. The barrel stays. Someone claims it moved 6 inches while no one was looking. Someone else swears it groaned. You ask Jacobs, why are all the worst things happening on Wednesdays? He doesn't answer for a long time. Then. Because that's when we take. The rest of the week, we survive. We sail. We drift. But Wednesdays? That's when we reach out with both hands and grab. That's when the sea notices. You want to laugh it off. Say it's nonsense. But the truth is, he's right. You always attack on Wednesdays. Because it works. Because the sea is calmer just long enough to strike. Because your blood's hot and your hunger's sharp and your captain is cruelest in the middle of the week. But it always costs something. A parrot. A stowaway. Rum. A boy with a tin cup. And now? A barrel you didn't ask for, containing something that breathes once every hour. You lie awake, staring at the deck above. Listening. Waiting. The hour passes. And from below, you hear it again. The creak. The sigh. The groan of something that should never have been taken. And of course, it's Wednesday. The barrel hasn't moved. Except it definitely has. You stare at it from the far end of the deck, keeping your distance like it's a venomous animal, or worse, sentient rum. It's still sitting by the mizzenmast, but the shadows around it are wrong. Too dark, too cold. It looks heavier than it did yesterday. Like it's filling with something more than dread. The crew avoids it. No one mentions it outright. But people walk wider arcs around that spot. They step lighter. Whisper more. And then there's the captain. He's pacing again. Hat forward this time, but the eyes underneath are bloodshot. You catch him glancing at the barrel when he thinks no one's watching. And frowning like it owes him money. Then he snaps. Bring it below. You blink. Sir? I said move it. Down into the hold. Chain it if you have to. Two deckhands move toward it hesitantly, as if it might bite. You grip the rail and watch, stomach tight. When they lift it, both men stagger. One curses under his breath, heavier than a cannonball wrapped in debt. They carry it below, and the moment it vanishes from view, the air seems to loosen, just a little. Not safe, but paused. And that's when the real Wednesday fun begins. The captain's in a mood. The bad kind. The kind that puts knots in your gut and makes the crew walk quieter. He's storming around the deck, barking orders that contradict each other: reef the sails, no unfurl them, no jibe portside, until finally the first mate suggests he lie down before he bursts a vessel. Big mistake. The captain draws his pistol, spins on him, and, for a terrifying moment, everyone thinks he'll shoot. But he doesn't. He just stares. Then turns away. He's cracked, someone whispers. No. It's Wednesday, someone else mutters. Mainstream fact: pirates often voted out captains they no longer trusted. Unlike naval ships, pirate crews had a surprising amount of democratic sway. But when a captain went mad, or violent, things turned ugly fast. Quirky detail? There's a record from the Crimson Wren noting that 3 of its captains were voted out, and all on a Wednesday. The logbook entry simply read, "He woke cruel, spoke foul, and tried to marry the cannon. We sent him ashore." Historians still debate whether it was rum, stress, or superstition. But you're watching Rourke stalk the deck like a man possessed, and yeah, you'd vote him off the island right about now. The parrot's absence is still being felt. You half expect him to burst from a cloud, shrieking, "He's lost it." Throw him in, but no such luck. Then come the punishments. The cook gets chewed out for under-seasoned gruel. A deckhand is flogged for looking suspicious. Someone else is put in the brig for miscounting the cannonballs, even though you all know we only have 9 left and one is shaped like a pineapple. Jacob sidles up next to you. He's not just mad. He's afraid. You ask of what? He nods toward the hatch that leads below deck. The barrel? Not just the barrel, he whispers. What's inside it? What's coming for it? What's already here? You scoff. You think something got aboard? No, he says grimly. I think something woke up. Night falls. The sea is quiet. Too quiet. You sit near the hatch, against your better judgment. There's a smell in the air, salt, damp wood, and something sweet. Like honey left in the sun too long. It oozes up through the floorboards. You don't investigate. Then it happens. The screaming. One of the crew, Thistle, you think, bursts topside, eyes wide, face gray. It's open, he shrieks. What is? The barrel. Before anyone can stop him, he leaps overboard. Splash. Silence. The captain is there in seconds. Get below. You follow, sword drawn. You find the barrel split down the middle, like something pushed from inside. No one dares look inside. Except the first mate. He lifts the lid and goes still. What is it? Someone asks. He doesn't speak. Just lowers the lid again. Then walks away. No one stops him. You peer down as he passes. You catch just a glimpse. Teeth. Not arranged like a jaw, not human. Just teeth. Embedded in the wood. Small. Circular. Chewing outward. You don't sleep that night. No one does. But the captain? He paces. And hums a lullaby none of you taught him. In a language none of you recognize. At one point, he stops at the broken barrel. Sets a silver coin inside it. Then bows. To what? You don't ask. Because it's Wednesday. And some things demand tribute. You've started marking Wednesdays on the wall. Just small scratches with your knife, under your hammock. 13 now. 13 jagged little lines, each one etched deeper than the last. You don't know if you're counting how many you've survived, or how many you've got left. The crew is quiet this morning. Even quieter than usual. No one's humming. No one's spitting curses over biscuits. The only sound is the wind, a low, steady moan that sounds just enough like someone whispering to make your skin crawl. It's Wednesday again. And today? Today is for witchcraft. You don't mean sleight-of-hand parlor tricks or broomsticks and bubbling cauldrons. You mean ocean witchcraft. Wet. Old. Too close to true. Jacobs warned you days ago. We're drifting into a cursed seam, he said. A slice of the sea where spells don't die, they just wait. You thought he was drunk. Now you're not so sure. You find strange things scattered across the deck. Not dangerous, but wrong. A pile of fish bones arranged in a perfect spiral. A dead gull with shells covering its eyes. Knots in the rigging tied so intricately that no one can undo them, and no one remembers tying them in the first place. The captain's orders are clipped. Don't touch anything that wasn't yours to begin with. The crew obeys. Barely. And then someone finds it. A little wax doll, wedged between two boards. About the length of your finger, wrapped in black twine. Its face is scratched into the wax, poorly, but you can recognize it. It's you. Everyone backs away. Nope, mutters the cook. No, thank you. Not today. Someone suggests tossing it overboard. Another says to burn it. A third just whimpers. Jacobs, oddly calm, takes it gently. Don't do nothin', yet, he says. Let's see if there's more. More? Oh yes. Within the hour, they've found 7. Wax dolls tucked into boots, behind barrels, hidden in sacks of flour. One even inside a coil of rope. Each one has a face. Each one looks like someone on the ship. The captain gathers them on a table. No one touches them now. The wind picks up the moment they're all together, howling through the sails like it's laughing. You ask, what are they? Jacobs replies, hex effigies. Or warnings. Depends on how you read them. Mainstream fact, sailors, including pirates, often carried protective talismans. Charms, coins with holes in them, even bones tied in red thread. The sea was vast and unknowable, and many believed it listened. Witches of the sea were real to them, and their curses even more so. Now here's the fringe bit, some crews believed that when the sea grew too calm midweek, it meant a sea which was near. Or already on board. That she'd laid charms, set traps, whispered things to the wind. One logbook even mentions a man bleeding from the ears after touching a carved doll on a Wednesday. Historians still argue whether these stories were invented to explain madness, sabotage, or worse. But when you look at the dolls on the table, you don't think anyone made this up for attention. They're too specific. Too personal. Yours has your scar. Your earring. Your shirt pattern. The captain orders them burned. But the fire won't catch. They try 3 times. The tinder catches, the flames spark, and then die. Each time. As if something's smothering them. You finally speak. What if they're not meant to be destroyed? Silence. Then a voice from the back. The stowaway. Still alive. Still muttering. They're keys, he says. To open us up. One by one. Every Wednesday, another turns. Someone throws a boot at him. Misses. But no one laughs. The wind is rising now, furious. The sails twist in directions they shouldn't. The compass spins. The sea boils, not stormy, not rough, just wrong. Like it's being stirred from below. And then the cook collapses. No noise. No cry. Just drops, face first, spoon still in hand. They roll him over. Eyes wide. Mouth open. A wax plug between his teeth. You recognize the doll from earlier. His doll. The captain finally acts. Throw them overboard. Now. They do. One by one, each doll is flung into the sea. The moment the last hits the water, the wind stops. Dead calm. But only for a breath. Then comes the laughter. Soft. Wet. All around you. From the sails. From the sea. From under the deck. You run. So does everyone. Back to your hammocks, your hidey holes, your makeshift altars of rusted coins and stolen crucifixes. The captain prays, loud and frantic. Jacobs doesn't. He just says, next time she wants more than dolls. That night, you dream of a woman standing at the bottom of the sea. She doesn't move. Doesn't blink. But in her hands, she holds your wax figure. And she's smiling. Because it's Wednesday. And she knows your name now. The waves slap soft against the hull like a bored cat pawing at a bowl. You'd think that was comforting, but at this point, even gentle things feel threatening. Especially on a Wednesday. You step onto the deck, boots squishing slightly, last night's rain still lingering, and glance around. No dolls this morning, no upside-down birds, no blood seeping from the planks. A win? Not exactly. Because today's problem is simpler. More annoying. More unjust, somehow. There's no shore in sight. You've been sailing 5 days now without making landfall, and the crew's teeth are starting to grind audibly. But what makes today especially unbearable is this: Wednesdays never meant shore leave. You hadn't noticed it before, too caught up in rum shortages, haunted parrots, and cursed barrels. But now it clicks. You haven't set foot on dry land once on a Wednesday. And no one plans to. Ever. Why, you ask Jacobs, who's sitting cross-legged near a coil of rope, sharpening his knife in lazy arcs. He doesn't look up. Because she watches closer when we're near land. She, you ask. He shrugs. The sea. Or the Wednesday witch. Or whatever thing takes crewmen who go ashore when they shouldn't. Doesn't matter what you call her. She's real. You wait for a chuckle. There isn't one. Mainstream fact: pirate crews often rotated between plunder and port. They loved shore leave, gambling, drinking, brawling, and other activities best left off bedtime channels. But some ships had unspoken rules: no landfall on certain days. For some, that day was Sunday. For others, yep, you guessed it, Wednesday. One logbook from the Sable Dog notes: we saw Tortuga but waited a day. Bad luck to dock midweek. For men lost the last time. All on shore. All found face down in dry sand. No wounds. Just gone. You ask the captain about it directly. He glares at the horizon. Set foot on land Wednesday of last month. Just me. 5 steps. That night, lightning hit the mast. Twice. No clouds. Explain that. Fair enough. But being stuck aboard is worse in its own way. The crew is twitchy. Jumpy. Irritable. There's a card game below deck that turns into a knife fight over a bent ace. The cook starts crying while making gruel. A sailor throws a bucket at a shadow because he's convinced it whispered his name. And all the while, the coastline just sits out there, taunting you. A narrow green line of possibility. So close you could swim to it. But no one does. Because everyone knows. You take your spyglass and sweep the horizon. There, between two islands, is a perfect inlet, calm water, visible sandbar, a flock of birds overhead. It looks welcoming. You point it out to the captain. He narrows his eyes. That's the problem. What is? It looks safe. Looks friendly. That's the trap. You laugh, but no one joins in. Someone mutters, the safe-looking ones are where she waits. You don't ask who she is again. You already know. Still, the temptation claws at you. Dry land. Trees. Possibly even fruit that hasn't been rolled in salt or squashed under cannonballs. The very idea makes your mouth water. Then someone suggests a swim. Just a quick dip. Stretch the legs. Beat the heat. That's when the captain draws his pistol. Anyone touches the water today gets a bullet. And you all believe him. Quirky detail, some pirates believe that islands themselves could be bait. The sea would create illusions, false coves, sweet breezes, even birdsong, to lure weary sailors into traps. Some swore they walked ashore only to vanish. Others claimed the sand turned to hands, the trees whispered in dead languages, and those who stepped off the boat never stepped back on. Historians still argue whether this is metaphor, madness, or mangrove fever, but the stories are too consistent to ignore. You sit on the edge of the deck and let your feet dangle. The water is clear. Inviting. And wrong. Just, wrong. You imagine walking ashore, feeling the sand between your toes. Then you imagine hands reaching from beneath it. Or a voice calling yours from the trees, promising sweetness you've never tasted. Or maybe worse, nothing happens. And you just start walking. And never stop. You shake it off. You stay aboard. Because even with all the curses, the bleeding wood, the haunted stew, and the godforsaken rum famine, this ship is safer than whatever's waiting out there on shore. You glance up. The sails are limp. The sky is flat. The land still sits there, almost smug. But nobody speaks. Nobody moves toward the boats. And another Wednesday slides by without touching ground. Without touching anything solid. Without letting go of the fear that dry land, today, at least, might be hungrier than the sea. You wake up sweating. Not from heat, though it's humid as a drowned sponge, but from the sensation that your room moved. Not the ship. The room. Like your hammock shifted 5 feet starboard, or the bulkhead swapped places with your footlocker. You sit up, heart thudding, and realize something is definitely off. Everything's just slightly skewed. The lantern sways in the wrong direction. The shadows fall where they shouldn't. The floor slopes differently than yesterday. And the compass? Lying beside you on your crate, it's spinning. Not gently. Wildly. Like it's in a panic. You clamber topside. The crew is already gathered. Confused. Frustrated. The navigator's sweating bullets, poring over a chart that looks like it's been rewritten in chicken scratch. The captain looms over his shoulder. Where are we? He demands. The navigator just points at a blotch of empty sea. Here. And where were we? He gulps. Also here. But, not the same here. You all stare out at the horizon. Same sea. Same sky. But nothing is familiar. Not even the sun's path. Jacobs joins you. It's the Wednesday warp, he mutters. The what now? He pulls a small square of folded parchment from his shirt, a personal chart, maybe. On it are faint marks, tiny XS next to the dates. Happens once every few months. You wake up and the sea's different. Doesn't smell right. Stars don't line up. The compass goes mad. You steer north, you drift west. Like, bad navigation? No, he says, squinting. Like the world turned sideways for a day. Mainstream fact, navigation in the 18th century was mostly guesswork and dead reckoning. Without modern tools, ships often drifted hundreds of miles off course without knowing. But some logs show strange notation specifically for Wednesdays, entries like, sun wrong, compass won't fix, or, map is a liar. Historians still argue whether this is the product of fatigue, magnetic interference, or, more charmingly, pirates being awful at maps. But the frequency of midweek errors? Suspicious. Then comes the call from the crow's nest. Land. Port side. The captain spins. That's impossible. Nothing should be here. But it is. A spindly green coastline, rising like a trap from the sea. You grab the spyglass. There's something on shore. Not a settlement. Not a fort. Just, structures. Tall. Thin. Bone-colored. Like bleached ribcages poking out of moss. The captain shouts, adjust heading. The helmsman does. But nothing changes. The sails snap with wind, but you don't move. The compass spins harder. The ship groans. Why aren't we turning, you shout. Jacobs puts a hand on your shoulder. Because we're not sailing anymore. You blink. What? We're drifting, he says. Not by wind. By design. You stare at the water. No current. No tide. Just movement. Like the ocean's dragging you sideways, on a leash. And the island grows closer. The captain orders anchors dropped. They obey. The chains rattle, splash, and keep going. No tension. No catch. The ocean's too deep. Or, bottomless. Someone points at the mast. The ropes are twitching. Not flapping, twitching. Like they're uncomfortable. Like they want to let go. And that's when the compass stops spinning. It jerks north. Dead north. And stays there. The navigator faints. Quirky superstition time. Pirate lore speaks of ghost bearings, moments when the compass locks onto something it shouldn't. Not a star. Not a pole. But a presence. Some said it was fate. Others, a shipwrecked god. One log mentions, the needle bit the wood and would not turn. 3 men bled that day. We followed it. We did not return. The crew's panicking now. Not loudly. Not yet. But you can feel it, fear humming through the boards. The captain finally says, we cut sail. Gasps. Sir. He glares. We float blind until Thursday. No canvas. No direction. It's madness. But it's what pirates do when Wednesday turns the map into a lie. You help drop the sails. The world grows quieter. Slower. Drift becomes your only movement. The island fades behind you, but only after the sails vanish. As if letting go of intention was the key. That night, Jacobs shares one last whisper. There's a part of the sea that only shows up on Wednesdays. Doesn't care what you want. It just invites you. If you steer toward it, you're gone. But if you drift? If you play dead? You nod. It lets you leave. He smiles. Sometimes. You lie in your hammock, wide awake. The compass lies still beside you. It's pointing straight down. You don't touch it. Because you've learned something crucial today. The sea doesn't just lie on Wednesdays. It chooses. You know those old sayings, Monday's child is fair of face, and all that? Charming little rhymes, meant to predict your personality based on the day you were born. Well, you grew up thinking Wednesday's child was just full of woe, like they lost their favorite toy in a puddle. Out here, Wednesday's child means cursed. Flat out. Doomed from the womb. And you've just discovered that 3 of your crewmates were born on a Wednesday. It starts with a card game. As so many bad things do. A lazy afternoon, lull in the wind, the cook snoring somewhere near the flour sacks. You're playing for matchsticks and bragging rights when a kid named Edo drops a stray comment, born on a Wednesday, me. Day the fog rolled in sideways, or so Mum said. The table goes still. The matchsticks freeze mid-toss. Someone mutters, that explains it. Explains what? Edo asks. Jacobs doesn't look up. Why you dream with your eyes open? Edo frowns. What? You're about to laugh, just another round of sailor teasing, when the man to your right, Big Dell, says, me too. Born midweek. Full moon. Could walk by 3 months. That should be funny. Should prompt a round of exaggerated baby tales. Instead, silence. You say nothing. But you start thinking. Because now that you're paying attention, things do seem to go wrong around those 3. Knots unravel behind them. Dice turn on their edge. Storms come closer than they should. And the 3rd? Old Silby. He's never said much. Just wheezes and watches. But now he speaks. She follows us. The cook wakes up screaming. Because, of course, it's Wednesday. Mainstream fact, there's no real science behind day of birth superstitions. The nursery rhyme probably came from 19th century England, long after the golden age of piracy. But sailor culture loved linking fate to the calendar. Certain birthdays were good luck. Others meant you'd die at sea. Wednesday born? Universally bad news. There's a fringe logbook entry from the harlot's teeth that simply reads, Wednesday child cut the rope. We buried him in a barrel. Historians still argue whether these superstitions affected crew dynamics or if they were just coping mechanisms for randomness. But when you see the way the crew starts avoiding Edo, Dell, and Silby, how the first mate won't eat if they're nearby, you get it. Something's festering. By midday, the 3 men are on their own corner of the deck. Nobody talks to them. Nobody touches them. Not even the parrot, when it was still around, used to land on their shoulders. The captain finally says it out loud. 3 of you born midweek. That's a pattern. Edo stands. That's not a curse. That's a calendar. The wind dies. Just like that. No flutter. No warning. Just silence. You hear a rope unravel. Then a loud snap. One of the forward sails tears in half. The mast groans. A plank splits. A crate falls from the upper deck and lands exactly where Edo was standing moments before he jumped back. He stares at the crushed crate. Then at the captain. Dell mutters, she's watching. The captain growls, below. All 3 of you. Stay until Thursday. Edo looks like he wants to argue. Then sees the knife in the bosun's belt twitch. He backs down. They disappear into the hold, shoulders hunched, faces pale. You want to feel bad. You do. But deep down, you're relieved. Because it's been too quiet since they went below. Until the screaming starts. You're first down the ladder. Jacob's on your heels. Dell is thrashing on the floor, tangled in ropes that shouldn't be there. Edo is pressed to the hull, weeping. Silby? He's standing still. In front of the broken compass. It's pointing up now. The wood beneath his feet is blackening. Smells like iron and thunder. Get them out, you shout. You drag Edo up. Jacobs grabs Dell. But Sylvie? He stays. Whispers something. Eyes roll back. The deck groans like it's exhaling. You grab him. He turns and smiles. Not like Sylvie. Like something else. You can't stop her, he says. She made us on a Wednesday. And then he collapses. Heart stopped. Cold as fish. No wounds. No reason. Just, gone. You bury him at sea before nightfall. Edo and Dell are given new hammocks, outside the crew's quarters. No one says the rhyme again. But you hear someone mutter, Thursday's child has far to go. And for once, you hope they're right. Because Wednesdays make monsters. It starts with thunder. No lightning. No rain. Just thunder, far away but steady, like someone rolling barrels of rage across the sky. You squint upward. The clouds are thin, high, barely even there. Still, the sound keeps coming. Boom. 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 The crew's already on edge, pacing like hungry dogs in a too small yard. Nobody talks much since Sylvie died. Dell won't sleep. Edo mutters in his hammock and jerks awake every time the ship creaks. You're near the helm when Jacobs appears at your elbow. Storm without clouds, he says. Only happens on one day. You give him a look. Do you ever take a break from being cryptic? He grins, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Can't. It's Wednesday. Of course it is. And as if on cue, the sky flickers. Just a pulse of light, far off, but enough to make the hairs on your neck lift. A moment later, more thunder. This time, closer. The lookout yells, lightning, port side. You scan the horizon. That's when you see it. A single streak of lightning plunges from sky to sea, and hits a ship. You see the glow, the flash, the curl of black smoke. But here's the thing, the ship doesn't burn. It keeps sailing. Straight toward you. No flags. No sails unfurled. Just movement. You yell down to the captain. He joins you, spyglass in hand. One look, and he goes rigid. Is that? Jacobs nods. It's her. The Tempest's mercy, the captain mutters. Mainstream fact, lightning strikes at sea weren't uncommon, especially with tall wooden masts acting like lightning rods. Ships were occasionally set ablaze, spars splintered, compasses fried. But pirate legends go deeper. Some tell of a ship struck not once, but repeatedly, every Wednesday, no matter where it sailed. A ghost ship, scarred by fire, always just offshore. Never speaks. Never stops. Known only by whispered names, the Tempest's Mercy, the Devil's Dinghy, or simply, Wednesday's Bride. Historians still argue whether these stories were metaphor, hallucination, or real vessels marked by superstition. But today? You're staring at one. You watch as the lightning strikes again. Same spot. Same moment. No storm above it. Just punishment. Then the wind dies, your wind. Your ship stalls. The other keeps coming. The captain snaps orders, but the sails hang limp. The rudder won't respond. The wheel creaks in protest. The crew is frozen, every eye locked on that approaching silhouette. And then it whistles. One long, eerie note, like a kettle left on too long, except there's no steam. No fire. No sound source. Just a whistle that rises, sharpens, and drills into your skull until your vision blurs. Dell collapses. Edo screams and jumps overboard. You hear the splash, then nothing. Not even a ripple. The ghost ship draws closer. Jacobs grabs your shoulder, knuckles white. Seen it once before. Thought I imagined it. It passed us by. Next port, half the crew vanished. Left clothes. Not bodies. You try to speak. Can't. The ship is 20 yards off your starboard. Close enough to make out its hull, splintered but smooth. No barnacles. No ropes. Just wood, blackened and gleaming like oil. Lightning strikes it again. Still no fire. Still no sign of life. Then it turns, around you. Not crashing, not scraping. Just, orbiting. Like a buzzard over a battlefield. The wind comes back. Your ship moves again, but slowly. Like it's being watched. Then you hear the first words. From below deck. From the broken barrel you thought had been thrown out. A voice. Female. Calm. Who walks beneath my storm? The captain pulls his pistol. Shoots the deck. The voice laughs. Then whispers. Who wakes the lightning? You don't go below. No one does. You throw salt. Light candles. Someone offers a gold tooth. Nothing works. Finally, Jacobs takes the compass. He walks to the bow, holds it high, and yells, "She sails free." We turn away. For a second, everything stops. The ghost ship halts. Then vanishes, mid-stride. Like it blinked out of existence. No sound. No wake. Just gone. And suddenly the sky clears. The wind returns. The ship groans with relief. You fall to your knees, lungs shaking. Jacobs lowers the compass. It's melted. Not burned, melted. Later, around dinner, nobody mentions the lightning. The parrot's perch is still empty. The compass is tossed into the sea. The cook serves stew without eye contact. But the message is clear. Wednesdays belong to her. Whoever she is. And if you ever forget, she'll send a storm with no clouds. And lightning that doesn't need a reason. The crew's quieter now, not the tense, side-eye sort of quiet, but the kind that settles over people who've seen too much. The kind that makes grown men avoid mirrors and sleep with one eye open, not because they expect danger, but because they know it's watching. You're sitting aft, staring at the horizon. It's Wednesday again. You don't even flinch when the morning bell rings wrong, 2 chimes, pause, then 1. A signal no one ever uses. No one admits to ringing it. Jacobs walks by, looking like he hasn't slept in days. He doesn't even greet you. Just mutters, "We're at the end." You look at him. Of what? He gives a dry smile. The calendar. One more Wednesday. Then we turn south. No more middle week madness. No more bleeding barrels. No more whispering storms. But you both know that's not how it works. Because today, everything clicks. You begin to see the pattern, not in flashes or moments, but like threads pulling tight all at once. The crew's bruises. The missing parrot. The cursed dolls. The compass that pointed to the sea, then the sky, then inside the ship. You remember what the stowaway said that first night, "He kills on Wednesdays." You'd assumed he meant Maynard. Or the sea. Or lightning. But maybe he meant the day itself. Or the weight it carries. Because every terrible moment on this ship, every single one, traced back to Wednesday. You realize now, pirates feared the Navy, they feared storms, but they despised midweek. Not just for superstition, but for survival. The logs you once laughed at, Wednesday's soup talked back, the wheel spun without wind, we buried 3, found 4 graves, they weren't jokes. They were warnings. Mainstream fact, pirates lived by patterns. Wind. Tide. Crew morale. And when enough people suffer enough disasters on the same day, they name it. They build rituals around it. They pass down rules. And one unspoken rule has haunted the 7 seas longer than any flag. Never trust a Wednesday. You hear the captain yelling from the quarterdeck. Everyone rushes up. There, in the sky, not clouds. Not a storm. Just a shimmer. Like heat rising off desert sand. But it's the ocean. And it's high. Mirrored sky. Upside down waves. Your ship, your whole ship, is reflected above you. Then a flash. Everyone hits the deck. You cover your eyes. When it passes, the reflection is gone. But something is on board now. No shape. No shadow. Just a feeling. A wrongness. The air buzzes. Your skin feels too tight. Below deck, something groans. Not wood. Not man. Something else. You rush down with Jacob's, sword drawn, not that it will help. There, in the hold, at the sight of the broken barrel. A circle. Drawn in salt. Flickering candlelight, though no one lit a match. Inside it, something moves. Fingers. Not connected to hands. Teeth. But too many. A voice. Yours, but wrong. You called, it says. You kept calling. Jacobs throws the melted compass at it. It vanishes. The light goes out. Silence. Then the voice again, soft, above deck this time. Wednesday is owed. You sprint up. Nothing. Then, thump. You turn. The captain is gone. Just his coat. Folded. A single gold coin on top. You don't ask. No one does. You take the wheel. You steer hard east. Jacobs watches you. We leave the calendar behind, he says. You nod. The wind shifts. The ship moves. No cries. No thunder. Just the open sea. By nightfall, the sky is soft. Gentle breeze. Calm. You mark a line under your hammock. Your last Wednesday. You hope. Now, the sails are quiet. The deck no longer creaks like it's trying to warn you of something. The sea hums its low, ancient lullaby, the stars blink without menace, and your heartbeat finally settles back into its rhythm. Whatever Wednesday was, curse, creature, trick of memory, it's fading behind you now. The ship glides forward through a night so still, it feels like the whole world is sleeping. The crew has stopped glancing over their shoulders. Even Jacob snores softly below deck. You stay at the wheel a little longer, letting the cool wind brush past your face, eyes half-lidded, watching the moon lay its silver ribbon across the water. No voices in the wind tonight. No shifting compasses. No bleeding ropes. Just peace. Soft, steady, earned. You let your hands rest on the wood. You think of every Wednesday behind you, the storms, the sirens, the stew that might have had teeth, and somehow, even with all that weight, you feel lighter now. You've survived it. Maybe not all of it. Maybe it waits in another sky, another tide. But for now, you drift. And the sea, at last, forgives. Close your eyes, sailor. The stars are steady. The water is calm. And this week, you're free. Sweet dreams.